Hello my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Egg Wars. Today we are finally hitting the double-digit numbers, my friends. 010. Glad to be here. I'm glad that I could get to this point with you all. So thank you for tuning in again. Off the top, shout out to my dudes. You know how we do. Arto, producer Chris, administer random. And I think it's been 7 episodes now, so I'm also going to plug again my boy Fart Crapper. The founder of game company Soiree Games has his game out, Neckbeard's Basement Arena. If you haven't checked it out, I have a video that I made with some gameplay and also the Steam link. I'm going to put those both in the description as well. Shout out to Fart Crapper for holding me down all these years. Now today, I'm going to be discussing a couple things. Depends on how long these go for. I guess also I'm going to address one thing too quick before I really get too far into it. People always saying that I don't look directly into the camera when I'm filming, and they're like, it makes it awkward, I guess. I don't know, I think it would be awkward for me to just stare in the camera the whole time. Maybe that's just me. But the way I'm sitting, I'm facing like this way. My chair and my computer and everything is like faced this way. But, you know, I just have the tripod off over here to where it's like kind of, you know, looking at the wall and shit. I don't know. It's just comfortable to me to have it this way, so it's just the way I have it. So if you think I don't know, that's just how I like to do it. So, sorry, I guess if you get weirded out by me kind of just looking all over the place and not at the camera. And today we're rocking another name brand sip. Extra cold because I accidentally left it outside. What else? I know I didn't do anything yesterday, and I apologize for that because just wasn't feeling the hottest yesterday, neither mentally nor physically. So I slept like over 20 hours, never really got out of bed yesterday. So, but we're back. We're gonna keep it moving. You know, no big worries. So today, you know, I'm always never knowing what I want to make videos about because I can never think of enough things that are like new and exciting that I could put a twist on. You know, like, oh, what do I want to talk about? You know, so it's the continual problem. But if you know about me, obviously, I'm sure you all know that I browse 4chan, and pretty much all I browse these days is Poll and CK, which is the food and cooking board. Now, I don't usually browse CK more than once every 2 or 3 days because it's a very slow moving board, and so there's not always a whole lot of exciting things going on there. So I just happened to click on today for the first time in a few days, and if you're familiar with the board at all, you would know that usually it's pretty you know, common that you'll typically find something that's like a discontinued food thread that's usually in rotation on the board. You know, it's to some degree. You know, it might take 4 or 5 days to hit bump limit, but it's usually there. But today I just happened to click on it, and one of the highest replied threads right now was, forgive me, Lord, for even talking about this today, by the way, but how McDonald's this Saturday at limited locations, they are bringing back the Szechuan sauce, or Szechuan, however the fuck you pronounce it, Szechuan sauce, courtesy by request of Rick and Morty. So Rick and Morty said you gotta bring that back. Now, like I said, forgive me, I don't watch television. I haven't had television service in 6 years now. The only times I've ever watched television in the last 6 years is usually if I'm spending some kind of time with a female or like an older person, because they all seem to watch TV still. I'm like, I can't even stomach this crap. It's horrible. It's awful. It's garbage. But anyway, you know, so I browsed and I opened this up and I decided to take a peek. You know, just out of curiosity, I was like, okay, well, you know, this is how this topic kind of came about today, because there's so many things that I just don't really care about. You know, I'm not somebody who's typically finds myself really easy to pander to, I guess. There's nothing that really makes me jump up these days and go, oh shit, that's cool, you know, because I've been so fucking overwhelmed in this cynicism that I've steeped myself in over the years that anytime I see something that maybe, you know, 6, 7 years ago, if I had never, you know, spent an excessive amount of time on image boards, I probably would be more easily excitable. I mean, I used to vape, I used to do all kinds of neckbeard type shit, you know. But, you know, I'm so steeped in irony and cynicism these days that I just can't find anything to get excited about. I'm just like, oh, haha, getting excited about that. Oh, I'm far too, whatever, you know. But anyways, so I'm like, one of the things that still kind of piques my interest, that gets my attention, is usually to do with food. As you can see, I'm a fat motherfucker. So I'm like, I don't even care about the Rick and Morty shit, obviously, but I'm like, I'm going to drive, I think this Saturday, we're going to do a little special Egg Wars out on the road, a little mukbang. I think I'm going to go get these buttermilk chicken tenders that are being released with this for the one day only sauce or whatever. And I'm probably going to get some sauce, probably going to do a mukbang, probably going to do an Egg Wars mukbang, maybe at a park, maybe on the road. I don't know exactly yet, but when I was thinking about this, it really got me thinking, and I was like, when we're talking about these discontinued food items like the Szechuan sauce that had been out and reintroduced now, and there's like, it's like, it seems to be like the most big, exciting thing that they could really drum up attention for. Same thing I've noticed with Arby's. Now, this is a little bit different, but Arby's, their social media is very, very geared towards a certain audience that I would maybe identify with, because not entirely, but they go out of their way in their social media posts to post, about anime and video games pretty much exclusively. Maybe some comic book shit, but anime and video games is pretty much like the bulk of their marketing campaign. When Cuphead came out, which I don't own, I haven't played it yet, but they posted like a Cuphead Arby's, drop thingy. They have had the fucking dragon-made anime they've had, with mixed up with Arby's food or whatever, So they know that's something that could like draw the neckbeard's attention. And but it just made me think about how strongly we correlate certain feelings and certain thoughts with these random food products. It's so weird, It's like when I can't place, is it this culture around it? Like where else has this been? You know what I mean? Like in the past, back in hundreds of years ago, they would have, at the harvest, we're gonna make this special food that's only around this time of the year. And then as time goes on, you have the like the McRib, it's the McRib, this month only, or whatever the case might be with these different food products. And it just really made me realize, growing up, how many different things I kind of had intertwined, these good memories with food products. And I had one, for instance, one that always comes to mind for me is in the mid-2000s, Hershey's had this s'mores bar that came out, and it was this chocolate bar that was chocolate, marshmallows, and graham cracker. And this is back before the official recession had hit, so it was like you could go, and I could remember buying 3 for $1 if they were on sale, or 2 for $1, or whatever, whatever the regular price was. Nowadays, a fucking candy bar, even at Walmart or something, the retail price is 99 cents. Some places are even more, $1.19 or $2 for a king-size candy bar. So this is how it was at that time, and I really enjoyed that candy bar. This is right around the time where I was a teenager, so I was starting to finally get my first, sources of income. I was raking leaves, or mowing lawns, or walking dogs, or whatever the case was, and I would get a few bucks doing that sort of thing, and so I would always, something that's plagued me my entire life, as soon as I got paid, I immediately would go and buy fucking junk food, And these s'mores bars were always my target, and I remember them being discontinued in, I think 2006 was the last time. I think officially it said like 2005, but I remember buying them up until like 2006. So that was kind of my first experience, like just, we'd go out, if I was going out camping or whatever it was, people would be like, oh, let's get some chips or some soda or whatever. I'd be like, no, I gotta have my fucking s'mores bars. Now go up another year until like 2007. Actually, well, no, I had my first sort of job that I could relate to be like 2006. In 2006, I had my first sort of kind of job. I was a street sweeper, and I would this guy ran the store, and I would go and kind of I would sweep his sidewalks and whatever else, and usually pay me like $5-10 for the couple hours, whatever I'd be there. And I would take the money, I'd go down to the corner store, and I would get these energy drinks. They were Sobe No Fear energy drinks, and I haven't even seen them in many, many years. They were in a regular can like this. This was my first energy drink experience, I think, other than Balls. That was another thing too. Balls back in the mid 2000s or whatever. Actually, this was fucking probably early 2000s, early mid 2000s, whatever. Before social media, before all that stuff. Balls would just make its way around. That was like the MLG drink of the time. So I remember I found this gas station about like 15-20 miles out of town by this, I wouldn't say, what would you call it? Like, not like a ski resort, but it was like a ski, whatever, like a place where people would go to ski, like ski park. I don't know what the fuck you'd even call it. But there was this little hole in the wall convenience store right by this ski area, and I never learned to ski, but I'd go there and I tried snowboarding, I would go sledding and stuff like that. It was a fun time. But they had balls there, and one time I remember, because this was in the winter time, I actually saved up some money I got for Christmas and went to buy, as many bottles as I could. And I think back then it was like $2 a bottle or whatever, which at the time was like fucking like, whoa, that's a steep price, but it was really good. And it was like, oh, if you're drinking balls, you were like the official gamer, oh, you're a fucking gamer, you gotta get your balls. 2003, 2004, something like that it probably was. But in any case, so, I was getting my Sobe No Fear energy drinks in 2006, and I can recall that having strong correlations. I might not even remember some of the shit I did in the summer of 2006 if it wasn't for that goddamn energy drink, because it was so important to me. I'd go and get this energy drink, and then I'd go and I'd sit up on 4chan, or I would, play video games, or, this is also the time where I was really, really heavy at Newgrounds. I had I held a prestigious position on Newgrounds. I was the moderator of the Newgrounds Pal Talk room, which I was also able to get Pal Talk Pro, wherever the fuck it was, because of this job I had. So I was able to do this, and I was able to take my, two for $3 or two for $2.50, whatever the fuck it was, get these energy drinks. And I would sit there, and I can still remember how it tastes. Like, that's just how, when I think about these, like, late-night memories, being a teenager and shit, and all this stuff, I can still remember. I haven't had fucking No Fear energy drink in so many years. I think probably the last time I might have had it was maybe, like, 2007, 2008. I can still remember how it tastes, and I think the NOS, there's, like, a version of NOS that's kind of similar to it now. But it's a flavor that's hard to place from other places, and same thing with the Monster Chaos. There was a time where I went out of town and I stayed over. They had this thing called a Geek Out. Well, there was a guy I went to school with, and basically it was his family or some relatives of his, where I went with him and his relatives and stuff to this farm, and it was a great time. Like, we were having paintball fights, super soaker fights. We were blowing shit up. We had like big projector screens. We were playing goddamn Grand Theft Auto on these big projector screens. We were playing all these games. We were watching horror movies like Friday the 13th and shit on these big projector screens at this farm. It was a hell of a time. But there was a certain amount of soda and snacks and stuff that was accommodated for. But they had a gas station that wasn't too far off. But I mean, it was a pretty decent walk. It was probably like 40-50 minute walk round trip. But I remember us walking to this gas station and finding Monster energy drinks, because I don't think my parents would buy them for me at the time. But I had a little bit of money that got sent with me, and I used them to buy these Monster Chaos drinks. And now it's still a thing. Like, if I drink a fucking Monster Chaos, which I almost never do, because I don't drink the full calorie energy drinks because they're just too sweet for me these days. They don't sit well with me. But if I drink a Monster Chaos energy drink, I can fucking remember. I mean, this was 2005 probably. I can remember it like I was just walking back from that goddamn gas station like it was yesterday, But as time went on, it's like 2007. That's really what sticks out to me. Was 2007 was a big year, because I think that's when. Now let me just double check this, because it was 2007 to 2008 for this particular beverage. Okay, well, yeah, it would have been. This fits the timer. I think it was 2007. But Vault Soda, drinks like a soda, kicks like an energy drink, discontinued 2011. Now, there was this, and there was also the Mountain Dew Halo 3 Game Fuel, also came out in 2007, if I recall correctly. Now, I recall I had been up visiting family or something early that summer of 2007, and I was on my way back from visiting my family, or whatever. I was with my family, I was visiting other families, so I was coming back, we're driving around, and this is another thing. I always enjoy stopping in random gas stations, because anytime I'm visiting anywhere, I have to go to a gas station and see, what do you have that looks interesting to me that I've never seen, and I still do this everywhere I go. Always, ever since I was a kid, I do this. But I went in there, and they had this, and I hadn't seen it anywhere else, and at this time, it shows you the time, it was 12 packs, 2 for $3, so if I could pick up 2 12-packs of this shit, and the same guy who I was hanging out with from school, we were playing, we'd hang out and game every now and then, and so I was going over to hang out and game with him, and I was like, oh shit, we were like, oh, Mountain Dew is like the gamer drink, so we were trying this shit out, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was this huge thing. I was like, holy shit. Mountain Dew Game Fuel, oh my god, gotta have it. You know, we can no longer game without it. Pretty much, it was like it became this sort of staple necessity. You know, just as much as the game itself, which I think I had started playing World of Warcraft at this time. But it was like that, and then the Vault Soda. I remember we could get Vault Soda 24 packs for some decent price. And they always had, like, it seemed like the 20-ounce bottles were cheaper than regular, too. I don't remember why, but this Vault Soda, because I was like, oh, you know, it's, it didn't seem to, in my memory, I don't remember it tasting the greatest, you know, just like a general sort of citrus flavor, but, you know, the whole thing was like, oh, it's got more caffeine, it's got more energy, so we gotta have it. So that was a big thing in 2007, was to get the Game Fuel and the fucking Vault Soda. That was, like, the game necessity. Now, in 2008... you know, I was really getting into World of Warcraft in 2008. You know, I was like ready to fucking drop out of high school and all that different shit just to only play World of Warcraft. But in 2008 was when they introduced the Voltage, Whiteout, and the Supernova Mountain Dew drinks. It was like, you know, the pick your whatever flavor it was. And Voltage won, and I can't remember. I don't follow that shit anymore, but I just remember Voltage was like the winner at that time because then they kept having it. But the thing is, we'd go down to the store, and they were always out of stock of everything but Supernova, because Supernova was the least popular choice of Mountain Dew at the time. So it just came to be, you know, I was playing the shit out of World of Warcraft, I was playing the shit out of Phantasy Star Online at the time. So it was like, well, you know, the Game Fuel, they ended up coming out with that World of Warcraft Game Fuel back. I think that was probably 2009 maybe. But they had, you know, this Supernova became like the thing, because like we'd go down there and be like, okay, well, this is all that's here, this is all that's in stock. So like it just became associated in my mind with this, you know, going and hanging out and playing the shit out of MMOs for, you know, fucking 16, 18 hours at a time and drinking the Mountain Dew Supernova. And the thing is like, you know, snacks were never the first priority. We always used to just go and buy, you know, because fuck, man. You're paying like however many dollars for a bag of Doritos, whatever. It just wasn't worth it. You know what I mean? It wasn't worth it because we, you know, it wasn't like it was a snack on top of dinner or whatever. You know, it would be like, you know, we need to figure out, because there would be like, we didn't have money for food. You know what I mean? Like there was no food money. You know, food was tight already. You know, like we were fucking. I didn't always like if I go over and hang out with this dude, you know, things were a little bit tight with his family. I didn't always get to eat a dinner if I went over there, because they didn't always have the extra food for me to eat a dinner if I went over there. So it was like, we had to think a certain way where it wasn't going to be like, oh, you know, we're all loading up on snacks. It was like the caffeine beverage is the priority, you know, and we didn't do no-dos at that time. That was a little bit later on, but it was like the caffeine beverage is the priority, then the food is the second priority. So we would get hot dogs for cheap, like the cheapest hot dogs, and the cheapest loaf of white bread. Sometimes we would splurge out and buy like a bottle of ketchup, but usually we just fucking go and try and, you know, get like a riot. If somebody was going to McDonald's or something, we'd be like, oh, we don't need anything, we just need to run in and fucking, you know, try and like, you know, load up on some ketchup for free or whatever the case would be. Just try and have some extra condiments so we're not just eating straight up plain old microwave hot dog on a slice of bread. That's how we got down. But so it was like the Mountain Dew Supernova was this, you know, was like totally associated with this time frame in my youth. And I hear, at least last time I looked into it, which is probably a few years ago now, that we're still having it in Canada. I didn't see any that I could think of when I was up there a couple years ago, but maybe it's up there still somewhere. When I was in Toronto, I don't remember seeing any of it. But the Cherry Amp, I think it was, I seem to recall, or one of those amp drinks. There was one out there that had a similar flavor, but it was never quite the same, because it was like I think it had like a fucking, oh god, I want to say there was like a melon component to it, wasn't there? I'm gonna fucking look it up. But this is how fucking serious it was, you know? Was this, no. Could've looked this shit up. Oh yeah, and the aluminum Halo 3 bottle was some serious shit. Okay, it was 2009 for the Game Fuel, World of Warcraft Game Fuel. I see like this distortion type food and stuff, that was already when I was older. So like that didn't, but Supernova, melon, strawberry, melon, and ginseng. Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it wasn't it wasn't good at first. Like when we would have rather had fucking Voltage, but it just never was in stock. So it was like we had to get what we could, and it just kind of ended up having this coincidence, you know. But in any case, you know, I think it's just very strange, I guess, to just really consider how much of an impact these random food items and things, you know, tie into these, you know, how it's sort of maybe in the past, like I said, you would have like, oh, my mother used to make this casserole, my mother used to make this hot dish, so every time I have this hot dish, you know, for me that would be like a spaghetti with a hot Italian sausage and some Parmesan cheese. That's what my grandmother always made, and she would make chocolate cake made with mayonnaise for extra smooth flavors. So anytime I have a rich chocolate cake made with mayonnaise or some spaghetti with hot Italian sausage and Parmesan cheese, reminds me of my grandmother. Growing up with my grandmother, having her wild rice, always, you know, my grandfather being native, you know, wild rice was always an optimal choice of side dish. But then you have these things like the Surge Cola, the Surge soft drink, whatever the fuck you want to call it. People call it different shit over. Surge, Crystal Pepsi, you know, now this Szechuan sauce. It's just like, it's so weird how these like random pop culture food items hold like such a big you know, presence in our lives and our formative memories. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a fucking weirdo. I've always been a fucking food addict, to eating a bunch of trash and garbage and being a fat ass. You know, as long as I've had the ability to do so, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, I just kind of, this whole thing just kind of came to mind today as I was planning this out to go and, you know, go to the city in a couple days and do this shit. And it was like really like, I don't know, it just was a very interesting thought. Maybe some of you guys can relate. Maybe you think I'm a fucking lunatic who just ate too much garbage and got addicted to random shit when I was a kid. I don't know, but that's just how I feel. Now, I also wanted to talk about my secondary topic I wanted to speak on was some more developments in the Las Vegas shooting incident, or maybe not developments, but maybe just some more thoughts on it on my part. So, you know, there was this, like, after it happened, there was this post that came out where they're like, oh, it was identified, or, you know, there was this post on 4chan in the archives from September 10th where this guy's talking about what's going to happen, and he knew, and it's false flag and shit like that. So let me just read a little bit of this post here. I got it up here. So if this is successful, they're going to pass a law with metal detectors and machines. They're going to start putting them everywhere. They're going to put these surveillance things. They want to make Americans think places aren't safe. They want to create more regulations to, you know, basically increase the police state. So this guy, he sent me this stuff. He's like, well, what do you think about this? And I just was like, you know, basically, so here's what I told him. I was like, you know, really, we're looking at something where it's not, you know, this could be a precedent for these increased security measures in the same way that 9/11 was a precedent to increase, you know, security measures on airplanes and things like that. But really, you know, it's there's an artificial, at least this is just my opinion, there's an artificial sort of setting of precedents. Maybe this was a false flag. You know, some people have been saying that there's connections to this guy with, like, CIA, and, you know, maybe he was doing some, maybe he was working with the government in the past. He was a CIA asset or whatever. But I was just saying, you know, to this guy, I said, you know, the demographic changes, and, you know, as our society kind of is more volatile and there's more, you know, degradation of, you know, societal values, things going on around us right now, you know, this could be, you know, it's kind of a twofold thing, because you have maybe this sort of event that's setting a precedent, but people are going to, you know, as there's more sporadic violent crime, the family's breaking down, there's less discipline going on. You know, you're having children who now they're in schools and they're being, you know, people are just being more increasingly radicalized all over the place. You know, the children in schools, they're being indoctrinated with stronger things more early. You know, they keep on kind of pushing the envelope. And you have people who are in the media who really are just, you know, now I saw a couple articles published in the last couple days where the headlines, they're not even trying to twist the words anymore, it's just becoming like total fabrications, and they're issuing, you know, like they'll publish something that's false, and then they'll, you know, double back like 10 hours later and go, oh shit, yeah, oops, that was false, but, you know, who cares? Same thing I experienced, obviously, with me being blamed for these murders, you know, a couple years ago. There's no accountability for the media. They they don't, because there's this free speech to, what I mean, and I'm all for free speech, obviously, but their whole purpose is not to, as often not to give people the right information as much as it is to form this opinion. And the same thing now, we saw Anthony Fantano, his meme review channel, you got this email from Fader, and they're like, oh, so we realize you're a Nazi, white supremacist, neo-Nazi, and you hate women, and blah, 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 whatever. Any comments before we publish this? And he, he just told him, he took his videos down because he's like, oh, these people are going to try and smear me. Which they published the piece anyway, and they're like, oh, Anthony Fantano, he's a woman hater, he's a Nazi, he's blah, 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 whatever. Because this is what they do. They don't, they want to try to agitate and divide and, draw these lines and smear people and all this other stuff before anything else, because that's their main goal. And so what else did I say here? I said, people, if there's a mass shooting or something like this, or whatever the case might be, if they're seeing things going on that make them feel unsafe, if there's mass migration going on, that makes them feel unsafe, they're more likely to welcome an overreaching security measure like the Patriot Act or something of that sort, where it's like, okay, well, we're going to be tapping your phone calls and we're going to be, fucking shoving our fist all the way shoulder deep in your asshole to try and find weapons, but that's just because we're trying to protect you. Now, they keep on doing so on and so forth, and so I said, it's, at the same time, you're being there's agitation going on from propaganda, so it's like, you might, all of a sudden, you're having to walk through a metal detector when you go to work, because they're like, oh, we want to make sure you're safe, so you got to go through this metal detector, and you're like, oh, goddamn, and then you go home and say, you fucking pull up the news, and it's like, white men, the most hateful of metal detectors. Why are these evil white men so evil? Why do they hate our metal detectors that are just here? White men, they've actually have the history of needing these metal detectors the most. They're out here, they're murdering people of color every single day. Donald Trump, he literally gassed 6 trillion innocent women of color in the streets yesterday. 10 days later, oops, actually, correction, that never happened, but who cares, because the article's already been pushed and fucking, in people's brains. I told this guy, I said, it's a combination of factors, not exactly just the shooting. Eventually there'll be enough protection that the masses will be putty in the hands of the states, and they'll be able to enact whatever goals they seek under some falsified pretext. Leaders of such movement headed by people like the lady who was recently fired from CBS, maybe you've seen this, where she had some social media posts where she was like, I don't care about those people who got shot because they love country music, so they're probably rednecks and they're probably bigots and blah, blah, whatever. The sort of ultra-far left dehumanization of people who they see as the enemy. And I guess they could go, you could say there's whatever, if somebody's the enemy, you go back to whatever wars, and it's all about, trying to dehumanize the enemy, maybe, I don't know. But it's very obvious that, these ultra-leftists, they are all about, whatever means necessary to achieve their goal, whatever sick goal it might be. And then I was talking about how there was a UK article published a day or two ago that I saw now. In all fairness, I didn't actually read the article. I'm just going off the headline here, so it might have been a sensational headline. But the headline said, people in the UK can be facing jail time for viewing far-right propaganda. And then also there was another article about how they're banning acid sales to people under 18. And I'm like, you're seeing here, more things to where it's not about, they don't care about solving these problems. They don't care if, if there's unchecked migration from extremists who are having explosives and attacking people and stuff like that. They don't even want to arrest these people. The police are out here shaking their hands, 10 minutes after they cause, 10 minutes after somebody blows up a building and throws an acid in somebody's face or whatever, the police are all like, well, bloody hell, mate, we're not bigots, so carry on then, cheerio, mate. And so I told him, I said, this is exactly what people in the left want in America. They have this, pseudo-intellectual ego high where they think, if they, the further left they go, the further left that they think, whether it's, just imagine, I remember back when Poll came back in like early 2012 when I was browsing it again, this whole, check your privilege shit, it was just totally nonsense, it was a total laughable thing, and then, in 2013, 2014, we're posting this article on there for people to read where it's talking about the white privilege conference and shit like that, And people are like, oh my god, that's fucking insane. Now this is already 3-4 years ago. And this is some shit that has, like, you know, weaseled its way into the modern dialect. You know, undocumented immigrants, you know, people of color, all these random fucking Orwellian terms to try and, you know, weasel their way in and try and create these ideas and these narratives and everything to push this leftist agenda. And I was like, you know, it's the same thing. You have these immigrants who are out here attacking people and doing acid attacks and stuff like that. And the public is not allowed to even express their opinions on it. They'll be jailed for disagreeing with their child being raped and having acid thrown in the face. You go on Twitter, I don't like that happened. Okay, well now you're arrested, but the person who did it to you, well that was their culture, so they're not arrested, you know. Which creates further agitation, creates more, you know, whatever. It's just this total snowball effect leading into this total police state, this total, you know, globalized system of control. And I told this guy, I was like, you know, and this is what they look at European countries, and they look at Australia, and they say, oh, look at these countries that they banned these weapons, and look how their crime rates dropped and things like that, but they don't tell you, oh, by the way, look how, you know, native Australians, they can't get a job anywhere, they can't get a home anywhere, you know, Chinese are massively buying up their entire country, you know, and making it impossible for them to get jobs or move out of their parents' homes or to do any of these things they want to do. Look at Canada, where the Chinese are going in and buying up vast amounts of property, driving the property prices sky high. You know, you have Canadians who are trying to make a living, making $10 an hour at McDonald's, you know, in Canadian bucks, which is like even, you know, which is not a good purchasing power. And then you have these foreign investors who are moving their families over here, spending millions and millions and millions. And some, you know, they're just basically making money off of the native population, and you know, all these things, and nobody can do anything about it. They can't. Anything they say is hate speech, so they can't speak out against it. You know, they're totally like neutered in a way. And yet, you know, this is what the left wants in America, is to, you know, basically neuter people who are trying to speak out or act out, you know, or protest. You know, protest. Just a simple protest has turned into this basically like, oh, this is actual genocide. Protesting is genocide because you're wearing, you know, the Mexican chick in that video where she steals the guy's hat. You wearing this hat is literally genocide. It's literally killing billions of people if you wear this hat. You know, we need to get rid of all you white people. All you white people need to be gotten rid of because this is genocide for you to wear this hat and shit like that. So I mean, really, you know, this whole situation, I think there's definitely sketchy aspects to it. You know, I'm sure that more things will continue to be uncovered regarding the shooting. You know, maybe it will be tried to be used as a precedent to start, you know, passing more draconian security measures in the same vein that 9/11 was used to pass, you know, the Patriot Act, so on and so forth. You know, maybe you're going to need to get patted down every goddamn where you go. Who knows? You know, America is pretty much one of the last countries that I can think of that's standing up to this shit or has the means to stand up to it, and they really hate that we have that ability to speak our minds. You know, they want to criminalize any critical thought of the whole situation, and they want to try and neuter us, but we see how that goes. You know, we see these other countries that have this legislation passed, and they're in dire straits because of it. You know, whether it would be through you know, through all different kinds of means, you know what I mean? And that's how it goes, because they want to try and hit you from all different kinds of angles. So I hate to leave you guys on like a black pill sort of thing, but in any case, I guess that's pretty much all I have to talk about today. My thoughts on that, and my thoughts on how fast food, and random whatever items can tie into our whole culture, or our whole childhoods and things like that. So anyways, if there's anything else you want me to talk about, make sure you let me know in the description. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Egg Wars, and I'll catch you guys next time.